Kentucky's governor calling for prayers after a morning mass shooting in his state, the latest on the situation in Louisville. Plus, the battle over abortion raging in America.
It is contrary to what makes for good public health policy to allow courts and politicians to tell the FDA what it should do.
How 2 federal judges have set the stage for the next round in the fight for life. And the 2024 race for the White House.
This is a Judeo-Christian nation and is the most exceptional nation in the history of civilization.
How G.O.P. presidential hopefuls are courting the evangelical vote. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A mass shooting rocks another American city. Welcome to Faith Nation from the CBN studio in Washington, D.C. I'm Caitlin Burke. Chaos in Kentucky this morning as a shooter opened fire inside a downtown Louisville bank. Tonight, 4 people are dead and at least 9 injured, including 2 police officers. The lone gunman, a 23-year-old bank employee, killed by police. As the investigation moves forward, the rapid response of law enforcement is credited with saving lives.
Within 3 minutes of being dispatched, officers arrived on scene and encountered the suspect almost immediately, still firing gunshots.
I want to thank them and all our other law enforcement officers for responding and doing their best to try to save some of my friends and many others.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear rushed to the scene for multiple reasons and urged the nation to pray for all those affected.
This is awful. I have a very close friend that didn't make it today. And I have another close friend who didn't either, and one who's at the hospital that I hope is going to make it through. So when we talk about praying, I hope people will.
Authorities say a lone gunman with reported ties to the business opened fire in a boardroom of Old National Bank at 8:30 Monday morning.
He had a long assault rifle, and you hear the shots just start firing. We were in the back conference room. Whoever's next to me got shot and hit bloods on me from it.
Kentucky lawmakers quickly responding, with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell saying he's devastated by the news, and Senator Rand Paul writing, "Our hearts break for the families of those lost." Authorities believe this will be a long investigation, as many questions remain unanswered. President Biden responding to the shooting on Twitter, urging Republicans in Congress to take action to protect Americans from gun violence. In other news, the Justice Department today seeking an emergency stay against a federal judge's ruling suspending FDA approval of mifepristone, a pill used to help induce a chemical abortion. The U.S. District Judge's order would apply to every state, including those where abortion is legal. And after a same-day conflicting ruling from another federal judge, the battle over the abortion pill is almost certainly headed to the Supreme Court. CBN News White House correspondent Abigail Robertson is here now with more. Abigail?
Well, Caitlin, the doctors who sued the FDA say approving it was reckless and inadequate. They're hopeful after the first legal victory, but realize the legal battle is far from over, especially since the drugs account for more than 50% of abortions nationwide.
Obviously, this is not the last stage and the last word on this issue, and we're ready to go to the next stage.
The Justice Department immediately appealed, and Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra pledged the White House would use every option to reverse the ban.
This is not America. What you saw by that one judge in that one court in that one state, that's not America.
For many years, the FDA has sought to expand access to the at-home pill regimen, even though a number of doctors and medical organizations question its safety and its approval, going back more than 20 years.
From approval, and then every time the FDA has loosened restrictions, it has gone against its own rules to do so.
In January, Dr. Ingrid G.O.P explained to CBN News that the FDA approved that drug for use in life-threatening illnesses, and that while statistics show a third of women undergoing chemical abortions are under 18, the FDA did not follow proper procedure during the approval process.
The FDA is required to do pediatric studies, but they just waived that requirement without explanation.
New polling conducted by CRC Research, which included more Democrat than Republican respondents, found that 75% of Americans agree the FDA should have performed studies on girls under the age of 18 before approving the abortion pill for minors. 62% feel not very confident in the claim that the abortion pill is safe after 2 decades of the FDA only tracking death as a side effect. And 61% disagree that the pill is safe enough to distribute through the mail with little to no supervision.
This is a very difficult process for women. They bleed a lot. They essentially, it's like labor. They have a lot of pain. And often when they deliver the pregnancy, they will see their unborn or their child in the toilet. And at 8 weeks, he's about the size and shape of a gummy bear. He's clearly identifiable as a human being.
At the same time as the decision suspending the pill, another federal judge in Washington state ruled the opposite. The pill must remain available. The dueling rulings will likely mean the Supreme Court will need to weigh in on the issue. This week, the focus will turn to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, where the Justice Department will seek a stay, allowing mifepristone to remain in use until the High Court issues a ruling. And of course, abortion will be a key issue for the president in 2024, with Biden this morning telling the Today Show's Al Roker that he does intend to run. Caitlin?
Thanks, Abigail. Abby Johnson is a former Planned Parenthood director turned pro-life advocate, now the CEO of And Then There Were None, and she joins us now. Abby, welcome. Today, Republican Nancy Mace told CNN it shouldn't be up to the courts to weigh in on an FDA-approved drug, and that echoes the vice president. So we have politicians on both sides saying that the Texas ruling should be ignored. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I have to be honest. I'm pretty conflicted. I'm as pro-life as they come, but I'm pretty conflicted on this whole ruling. As most people know, the chemical abortion regimen is a 2-step process. It requires 2 different medications. The mifepristone is the first pill. The misoprostol is the second. The mifepristone is what actually kills the baby. The misoprostol is what causes the woman to expel the baby at home. The abortion industry is not going to stop committing medication abortions, chemical abortions. They will continue. The pro-life movement, I think, really doesn't understand this nuance. They believe that this is a victory for the pro-life movement. They think that chemical abortions are going to stop. They will not. They will continue, and they will continue providing them with misoprostol only. Misoprostol only abortions are significantly more risky for women. They have a higher rate of uterine rupture. And what that means is that the babies are going to be born alive. Because the mifepristone is what actually kills the baby. So I'm not sure that this is the victory that the pro-life movement thinks it is. Abortions are not going to stop. Chemical abortions are not going to stop. And I'm not sure the pro-life movement is the movement that wants to tell people the best way to kill babies. Our movement is one that is motivated to tell women not to kill their babies, not the best way to do it.
You recently tweeted that abortion being a decision between a woman and a doctor is a lie. As a Planned Parenthood director, you saw a lot of things firsthand. Can you talk about what brings you to that conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, women never have an opportunity to speak to a physician before they are carted off to an abortion procedure room and then have a surgical abortion performed on them. They do not have an opportunity to talk to a physician, to ask questions. Their medical history is not reviewed by a physician. So the idea that an abortion is a decision made between a woman and her doctor is absolutely ridiculous. Many times the women do not even know the name of the physician that is going to be performing surgery on her that day. In our facility with the chemical abortion, women did not ever speak to a physician. The physician wasn't even in the facility whenever we gave her that medication abortion regimen. So physicians have very little to do with the abortion process except for actually walking in and killing the baby. But the women do not have an opportunity to talk to physicians.
Abby, in about 30 seconds that we've got left, an event took place Friday called Exodus 2023. Can you explain what it was and the significance of it?
Yeah, so 10 years ago, we had an Exodus 2013 campaign, and we asked abortion clinic workers to walk out of their jobs and to essentially cancel their job in the abortion industry. We did the same thing on Good Friday, Exodus 2023, asking abortion clinic workers to leave their jobs, to walk out of their jobs in the abortion industry. And we haven't announced the results yet, but I can tell you that we had a very successful campaign on Friday. Many abortion clinic workers did leave their jobs.
All right. Well, Abby Johnson with And Then There Were None. We appreciate your time and we look forward to those results.
Thank you so much.
Winning over people of faith. When we come back, how GOP presidential contenders are reaching out to Christians across the country. Evangelical Christians are one of the largest Republican voting blocs. And as David Brody reports, that means they'll have a key role in choosing the 2024 GOP presidential candidate. David brings us this look at the potential candidates and their efforts to court Christians.
We are the pro-life generation. As expected, Republican evangelical voters will stand for issues like fighting for the sanctity of life, religious freedom, supporting Israel, and conservative judicial appointments. So far in this campaign cycle, parental rights and the radical push on gender ideology are taking up most of the space. GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley and others are sounding the alarm.
All of this wokeism is trying to change the core of what the family is. The family has always been one that prays at home, goes to church, teaches morals, grows their children, and sends them out to do God's work. That's always been the case until now.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is expected to run, recently echoed that same concern on the 700 Club.
If we teach our kids garbage, if we do not remind them that this is a Judeo-Christian nation and is the most exceptional nation in the history of civilization, if we can't teach them the basics of reading and writing and reasoning, if we get those things wrong, no Secretary of State can fix that problem. The next generation will grow up thinking, gosh, we were taught America is racist. We were taught America is founded on an illogical idea and there is an oppressor class. You can't get those things back.
For decades, evangelicals have focused on what kids are learning in the classroom. From homeschooling to school vouchers, the issue remains important. Now the subject encompasses areas many parents never thought would be considered school curriculum. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's also expected to enter the race, has been at the forefront.
You do not take a 6-year-old boy and tell him he may actually be a girl. That is wrong, and that is illegal in the state of Florida because of our efforts.
President Trump has harped on the same theme about protecting kids.
I will revoke every Biden policy promoting the chemical castration and sexual mutilation of our youth, and ask Congress to send me a bill prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states.
While former President Donald Trump still enjoys popularity with evangelicals, winning them over again in droves is not a slam dunk. With an indictment now a reality, it remains to be seen whether his support with evangelicals will drop or possibly even grow stronger. Trump and evangelicals have always had a relationship based on a mutual feeling of being outcast in society, so this indictment could actually help him even more. As it stands now, a new Monmouth poll shows 34% of evangelicals support Trump as the nominee. Ron DeSantis is close at 32%. Scoring in the single digits are people like Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, and Mike Pompeo. One concern for Trump is a potentially head-to-head matchup with DeSantis, who has a slightly higher favorability rating, 82 to 80% among evangelicals. He also leads Trump by 7 points, 51 to 44% as well. Ralph Reed, CEO of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, says no matter what happens, Trump has changed the evangelical primary dynamic.
Donald Trump, through his presidency, through his achievements and his accomplishments for life, for Israel, for marriage, for family, for religious freedom, has raised the bar of expectations among all conservative and faith-based voters. And every candidate better be ready to lay out what they're going to do, not just what they've done.
While Trump will be expected to say he's delivered on those promises, Reid says that doesn't mean there won't be a vibrant race ahead.
Evangelical voters, like all Republican voters, will want to survey the field, kick the tires, check out other candidates. I think they're going to feel they have a civic responsibility to give others a chance to make their case. In the end, every election, not just 2024, but every election, whether you're Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, Winston Churchill, or Barack Obama, is about the future. It's not about the past.
And that's where former Vice President Mike Pence comes in. As he mulls whether to run, he believes evangelicals and voters are looking for something different now.
I sense people long for the kind of leadership that could unite the American people around our highest ideals, including civility and respect. You know, our politics are very divided right now, David. But I'm not sure the American people are as divided as our politics.
But it will likely be a divided primary field, with Trump on one side and the others calling the party to move on from the former president. The 2024 question is whether enough evangelical voters will break from Trump and choose a different candidate they believe can still bring the results that Trump did as president. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, David. Jason Yates is the CEO of My Faith Votes, and he's here now for more. Jason, with the state of politics being so divisive, some say they want no part in it. 25 million Christians just don't vote. How do you change that?
Yeah, I mean, think about that. 25 million Christians don't vote. That's the equivalent of the voting population of 22 states. We did a survey right after the 22 midterm elections. We asked people, did their faith influence their vote? And more importantly, we said, did your church do anything to encourage and equip you in the process of voting? 6 in 10 born-again evangelicals said their faith did not influence their vote. That's a bit alarming. And then 70% of those same voters said their church did nothing to encourage them and equip them. So you ask, what can we do? I think first and foremost, we need to put some emphasis on churches and pastors, equip them so that I think they believe in this. They just don't know how. And we need to equip and encourage them to motivate their congregations to act on their faith and bring the influence of it into the public square and into the voting booth. On top of that, I think our other priority at My Faith Votes is the younger generations. There are so many kids who aren't voting, but they would if they had some encouragement. And once you get them to vote and vote in a biblical way, they become lifelong voters. We were on 250 campuses, Christian college and university campuses, and we plan to do that again. So churches and Christian young people on campuses, I think those are the key tickets to getting the Christian vote out and getting it right.
We just saw David's story about G.O.P. hopefuls courting evangelicals, but not every Christian is a Republican. Are Democrats missing opportunities to reach out to Christians?
Well, sure they are, especially those that are pro-life need to be bolder with their stance on that issue, especially as we see that battle still wage itself. We just heard a story about what's happening with abortion pills. That's still very much in the news. It's still very much something that evangelical voters, I mean, that's a primary issue. So Democrats, they need to stand strongly if indeed that's something that they value.
Real quickly now, how is My Faith Votes working ahead of the next presidential election? We've got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, we have a great team. We call them action partners. It's grassroots people. We've got over 10,000 of them across the nation. We're equipping them to do research on candidates, both local, state, and national, to help us with voter guides. And we're exploring different ways to combat what's happening with ballot harvesting so that we can equip churches to do the same, what we call ballot gathering, and be a place where we can collect ballots in that way.
All right. Well, Jason Yates with My Faith Votes, we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Escalation in Israel. When we come back, the latest on the rocket fire raining down across the Holy Land. Welcome back. Israel tonight on high alert. Rocket fire has been raining down for days now, coming from Lebanon, the Gaza Strip, and for the first time from Syria. Many experts pointing to Iran as the source of these escalating attacks.
Last week, we saw the heads of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, sitting together with the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, in Beirut, behind pictures of the imams that lead the Islamic Republic, Khamenei and Khomeini before that. So there's no doubt that it's Iran that is trying on every single front to attack the state of Israel.
More than 35 rockets have now been fired toward Israel. The U.S. Navy is stepping in by sending a guided missile submarine capable of carrying up to 154 Tomahawk missiles to the region as a show of force. Meanwhile, a U.S. Navy destroyer is sailing near contested waters in the South China Sea. It comes as the Chinese military wraps up 3 days of drills meant as a rebuke to recent meetings between American lawmakers and Taiwanese leaders. As part of those exercises, China patrolled around Taiwan, performing simulated precision attacks on key targets on the island. As the drills wrap up, the Chinese military declaring it's ready to fight, saying it could, quote, resolutely smash any form of Taiwan independence and foreign interference attempts. Faith Nation will be right back after this. An Easter tradition today at the White House, the annual egg roll. This year's theme was Egg-ucation, featuring a school-themed wonderland on the South Lawn. The president delivered a reminder about the reason for the season.
Easter is a season of joy, a time of rebirth, renewal, faith, hope, and love.
About 30,000 eggs were used for this year's event. That'll do it for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.